Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, August 4th edition of the MMA OB Daily Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin, and I'm joined by my co-host here, Cole Shelton, who obviously got a nice little haircut there. And quarantine haircut, huh? It's done. Quarantine. You could actually go to the barbershop now, right? So
yeah, it's all good.
How's everything with you, man?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Not bad, Cole. Things are finally starting to get back to normal, it seems like, right? We got other sports coming back on. Obviously, baseball's a little screwed up right now, but hockey and basketball seem to be doing really well. And obviously, MMA's finally kind of like booming again a little bit. Obviously, we have UFC to cover tonight or today, I should say, and we will do that. But, this weekend we also have Bellator as well as Contender Series. I'm not going to do Bellator with Cole today. It's just too much for one podcast. I'm going to save that for later in the week. And today, me, myself, and Cole, we'll just do UFC on ESPN Plus 32 preview, UFC on ESPN Plus 31 recap, and Contender Series. That's tonight, and we will preview it briefly. Okay, so let's start with UFC on ESPN Plus 31, Cole. So that was the Brunson Shabazian card. There's a lot to talk about. I don't want to go too in-depth on this because obviously we have a card to preview here, but there's definitely a lot to talk about here. Let's start with the main event, Cole. Derek Brunson gets a third-round finish here over Edmund Shabazian. Great performance by by Derek. He looked incredible against Edmund here. Not many people gave him a chance. I kind of wish I picked him. I mean, I was kind of leaning towards winning the podcast last week. I was like, this guy's got a little tools to win this fight. But, man, he even surprised me. Like, it was a really dominant performance. I think the first round was close. You could have given it to Edmund. I think I might have scored for Brunson, though, to be honest with you. I like the way he looked, man, the wrestling, mixing it in with the striking. Second round, I think the fight could have been stopped at the end of the second round, personally. And then the third round, obviously, Derek Brunson gets the finish there over Edmund. So, huge win for Derek Brunson, man. Keeps him solidified in the top 10, Cole. For Edmund, obviously, it's his first loss of his career, but he'll be back, 22 years old. Give me your thoughts on this performance by Derek Brunson.
Yeah, Brunson looked good. I didn't think he'd be able to get past Shabazian. He's a guy that you don't really know what Derek Brunson going to get. Sometimes he just runs wild like he did in the Adesanya fight and gets caught. Other times, even in Ian Heinisch, he almost got caught earlier with that head kick. I thought Shabazian would land something like a head kick similar to that, be able to drop him. But ever since going to Henry Hoof, he's on a 3-fight winning streak. He looks good. I think he's kind of past his gatekeeper. I think the UFC has to give him a guy ahead of him and see, is he really one of those like top 5 guys, or is he just a guy being able to beat anyone ranked 10 to unranked in the middleweight division?
I saw your article this morning. You suggested the winner of Romero and Hall. I will say I'd like to see a rematch with Romero at some point. The first fight, man, Brunson was winning that fight, and then third round he got finished, like really nasty strikes to the body. It was an interesting fight to watch. I'd like to see it happen again. I think Brunson would have a lot more success this time. Romero's getting up there in age now, so I think Brunson might actually win that fight. Having said that, I'd like to see him fight Jack Hermanson, man. And actually, Marcus Williams just sent us a message. Derek Brunson training in Florida has helped him a lot. Derek versus Hermanson is the fight I'd like to see. I agree 100%, Marcus. This is exactly what I'd like to see, too. Some people will suggest maybe Hermanson versus Darren Till, but Darren Till's out for 6 weeks at least with an MCL. I think he had surgery or something, but he's going to be out for a little while anyways. I would rather just see Brunson and Hermanson get rebooked. I don't think either guy took much damage in their fights. Hermanson didn't at all, really, against Gastelum. Brunson, I don't think he took too much damage in this fight. Maybe some of those kicks to the body did hurt him, but I think they can get these guys back in there in a couple months, maybe on that October card with Cannonier and Whittaker, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But that's the fight I'd like to see, Cole. I saw what you suggested for Edmund. You said Ian Heinisch. Again, it's a fight that makes sense. I think at this point, Edmund definitely is a guy that could still potentially be a title challenger one day, but this is the problem with rushing prospects, right? Like, I don't think they really rushed him, actually. I think they gave him the sensible step up at each time. Like, this was the right matchup to make. It was the guy right ahead of him in line. But this is exactly why I'm telling people slow their roll with Hamzat. Edmund's been arguably even more dominant. So, Hamzat's amazing, and I think he's going to do well in the UFC, but you got to slow your roll, guys. Seriously, like, there's no point of rushing prospects. So as far as Edmund goes, you suggested Heinisch, who's number 13. I'm fine with that. I think you could also do maybe the loser of Akhmedov and Weidman, potentially. You could do that fight as well. Maybe Antonio Carlos Jr. That's another guy in the top 15 at the bottom of it. Any of those guys make sense. Maybe if Uriah Hall loses this fight, you could do that as well. So there's a lot of guys for him. I just think maybe around the same area. But you know what? They might actually give him someone who isn't ranked right now to kind of build him back up. Also, Cole, Brunson should have got a bonus, right? Come on, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, he should have. And with Heinz, I don't know if you saw his tweet, but he tweeted at Shabazian after the event saying like, "Oh, you couldn't even go 3 rounds with Brunson." So I think that's part of the reason is he kind of wants that fight. So I saw a lot of people even saying Eric Anders if you're going to give
Okay.
Shabazian a step down, just because Eric Anders has that big name. He's an unranked guy. It's a winnable fight for Shabazian if you don't want to give him a ranked guy. I think that one makes sense as well. I think it's hard to give Shabazian an unranked guy though. Like he beat Brad Tavares really easily. He was a ranked. I think Tavares is still ranked.
Yep.
I don't know how far back you can put him. I think the Anders fight maybe makes sense just because he has a name. It's a winnable fight, but I still think you kind of have to give him a rank guy.
Yeah, someone in the bottom half. But by the way, I just don't agree with all with Brad Tavares being ranked in general. Like at number 12, Cole, when was the last time Brad Tavares won a fight? You know, I respect the guy. He's been around the UFC for like 10 years. He's won some good fights, but last time he won a fight, I mean, it's must have been a while, right? So let me check his profile out here. I don't think it's the last fight he's won was he lost to Jocko, right? So he lost to Adesanya. Was it Talis Latest? No, he beat Jocko. April 2018. That was his last win. 3rd round knockout over Jocko. So 2.5 years ago. To me, that's not a guy that should be ranked number 12 in the world. So I know what you're saying, but yeah, I mean, the guy is good. I just hope the UFC doesn't really rush him into like a elite opponent again. Brunson's so underrated, by the way, Cole. He really is. 12-5 now, I think he is, with like 8 finishes in the UFC. Underrated fighter. Should never
even I was talking to Gerald Burns and Vicente Luke before this fight because he's at Sanford, and they were saying like a lot of people are thinking Shabazian asked for this fight to get that step up. Brunson was the one that asked for this fight. He wanted it. Because he thought Shabazian has all this hype. He even said this is a winnable fight, and this is going to be a coming out party for him. So I can see why Brunson wanted this because now he does have a lot of hype after taking that O of Shabazian.
Yep, I agree. All right, co-main event, Jennifer Maia defeats Joanne Calderwood, 1st round submission. Great performance by her. She looked incredible in this fight. By far her best performance in the UFC. Having said that, Cole, she's only 3-2 in the UFC. She missed weight in 2 of those fights. Yet, she's going to be next in line to fight Valentina Shevchenko. I got to say, Cole, I don't agree with this, man, at all. I think people are just kind of forgetting, like, what she did in her last fight where she lost to Katlyn Chookagian. Like, Jennifer Maia has not been impressive in the UFC whatsoever. 5 fights, 4 of them went the distance. She missed weight twice, Cole. And all of a sudden she gets 1 win and gets a title shot. I don't agree with it at all, Cole. I know Cynthia Calvillo only has 1 fight in the division. I would much rather see Calvillo fight Shevchenko. I think that's a much more interesting fight. I think Jennifer Maia doesn't have a chance against Valentina, Cole. What are your thoughts on her getting a title shot, man? I honestly don't agree with it at all.
She wouldn't even be in my first 3 options. I'd have Cynthia Calvillo, Lauren Murphy, and Jessica Andrade if she beats Jessica Eye. I think Andrade beating Eye is a bigger win, and she has a bigger name and she's proven herself in the UFC.
Yep.
I don't get how you can give Jennifer Maia the title shot just because she's missed weight 2 of her last 3 fights. How do you know I know she came out 124.5 this time, but how do you know she's not going to miss weight next time? Then you don't have a title fight. Yep. I think you kind of do Calvillo or Murphy, give whoever to Shevchenko, then whoever doesn't get that title shot fights Maia in a number 1 contender fight. I don't get all the talk of, Jennifer Maia deserves it. Maia's look so good. She got King's game picked her apart. I think Shevchenko was going to do the exact same thing.
I'm not sold on her yet. I mean, she looked good in this fight, but Joanne Calderwood's been submitted a couple times now. Her ground game is not really her forte. And let's be honest, Joanne Calderwood, she was kind of almost a placeholder against Valentina. She was going to lose that fight too. I think there were odds at some point, and she was like plus 600, I think. Can't remember. But yeah, I think with Maia, I'd rather see her fight Lauren Murphy for the number 1 contender spot. Like, I think that makes more sense, and then give Calvillo that shot. But I'm with you, Jessica Andrade. She's fighting in October. If that fight was sooner, maybe you could do the winner of that fight. I think she does beat Jessica Eye pretty handily, by the way. So I think she's up there. And some people have said, okay, well, she's lost her last 2 fights. She lost to Weili Zhang. She lost to Rose Namajunas. No shame in that. She's a former champion. She's fought in 2 different weight classes. This will be her 3rd. And she's a big name in the women's division. So I'm with you, Cole. I think I'd rather see that. But I think Calvillo was the fight to make. Calvillo's got an excellent record in the UFC. I think she's 7-1-1 or 6-1-1. She's great, man. She really is. And I think at 125, she's going to do really well. I'm not saying any of these girls actually beat Valentina, by the way. Valentina is going to be a massive favorite against anyone she fights in this division, unless maybe she fights Weili Zhang. But at the same time, Cole, at least I think that Calvillo could make it more interesting. I just think Maia gets smoked really fast. I just don't see it being a competitive fight. And I just don't think you can trust someone who's missed weight 2 of her last 3 fights to make weight. That's just my opinion on that. All right, next up, Vicente Luque, great finisher over Randy Brown, 2nd round knockout. Man, that was a perfectly timed knee, Cole. gets the knock over Randy Brown. Vicente Luque was only like minus 210, I think, at close. Crazy, man. Like, I know Randy Brown's had some nice fights at times, but the guy's been knocked out a couple times now. Vicente Luque is a killer. 12-3 in the UFC, Cole, with 11 finishes, Cole. He is so underrated. I know you've talked to him. Obviously, you had that interview the last week. He's so good. He called out Nate Diaz. He won't get that fight, unfortunately. I don't think it was the right call out. I mean, Nate's not going to fight Vicente Luque. Would it be a good fight? It'd be a great fight, let's be honest, but it's not the right fight to make. It's too bad Jeff Neal's not available. I think that would have been a great fight for Vicente. But in general, Cole, I feel like Vicente's ranked a little bit lower than he should be at number 11. I think he should be ranked a little bit higher potentially. In fact, I do believe he should be ranked higher than Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal's only 5-0 in the UFC. His best win is Mike Perry. I think Vicente Luque has proven himself a little bit more than Jeff Neal. So I think he should be ranked number 10 right now. Looking at the rankings, Rafael dos Anjos is ranked 2 spots ahead of him at number 9. That'd be a fun fight, Cole. I know Rafael's coming off a loss, but I think that'd be a good fight, Cole. So that's kind of fight I'd look for. I'm just looking at the rest of this division. I mean, I don't know who else he'd fight because Stephen Thompson, obviously, he's already beaten him. Damian Maia won't take that fight. Michael Chiesa, maybe that could be a good fight. I don't know if Michael would take that fight either. I don't know, Cole. What are you thinking for Vicente next?
I just think it's the winner of Jeff Neal, Neil Magny. It's only in a couple weeks, that fight.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if he'd take it, but Robbie Lawler, Vicente Luque would be a phenomenal fight.
That'd be a phenomenal fight. I don't know what's going on with Robbie these days. Like, it'd be nice to see him come back and take on one of these young guns. But he might be at that point, Cole, where he's looking for like big fights. Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler, that kind of fight. I think that'd be the kind of fight maybe that would coax him out of wherever he's just chilling right now, man. He's made a lot of money, dude, and he's had a lot of success. So I think that Robbie wants to take the right fight for him. But as a fan, that'd be a great fight. And so would the Nate Diaz fight. I think that'd actually be stylistically a fun fight. I mean, even like Jorge Masvidal versus Luque, that'd be a fun fight too, Cole. I don't think it would happen, but stylistically a fun fight. Bobby Green defeats Landon Venata. How was he an underdog here, Cole? He closed at like plus 120. Crazy odds. He dominated the fight, man. He won 30-26 on one of the scorecards. Dropped Landon in the first round, but pretty much just dominated with his striking. Bobby Green, Cole, is one of the most underrated lightweights in the UFC. Do you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I don't know why he was the underdog. Like, Landon Venata is the most inconsistent fighter. He has never won or lost 2 straight fights in the UFC. He has like a loss and then a draw, and then a win and then a draw, or then a win and a loss. Like, you don't know what Landon Venata you're going to get. So I don't know how people bet him up as the favorite, how people were laying down money on him.
It's weird. But yeah, as far as Bobby Green goes, I mean, there's no secret that I really like Bobby Green. I mean, I had him on the podcast way back in the day with James, and he was great, man. And, we've kind of like kept in touch a little bit over the years, so he's awesome. And overall, Cole, in the UFC, he's actually 7-5-1. And Cole, he's won 5 fights as an underdog. 5 fights as an underdog. The Landon Venata fight, Josh Thompson, Pat Healy, James Krause, and Jacob Volkin. He was an underdog in all those fights. So he's a guy that doesn't get much love from the betting public, Cole, but as an underdog in this spot, I loved him here. Next up, Jonathan Martinez. He came in overweight, and he knocked out Frankie Saenz. He looked amazing. Another knockout for this guy. Cole, you look at Jonathan Martinez's record, man. 26 years old, Cole. 12 wins, 7 by knockout for a 135er. That's pretty impressive, man. He's actually got 4 wins by knee, including 2 wins in the UFC by knee. So this guy's knees are extremely dangerous. He would have won a bonus, but he missed weight. Frankie Saenz took a lot of punishment in this fight. This fight should have been stopped. It should have never entered the 3rd round, just like the Shabazian fight. That fight, too, should have never entered the 3rd round. Frankie Saenz is a very tough dude. I get it. He wanted to go out in the Shield. I respect that, but he didn't need to go for that 3rd round, Cole. A 40-year-old fighter, man, this is the kind of like almost career-ending fight I think could potentially be. He's in a tough spot right now. I saw his the article on BJ Penn. He wrote on Facebook that he feels like he was forced to take this fight against the guy who missed weight by 4.5 pounds. I think the UFC said they would cut him if he didn't accept the fight. So, unfortunately, he probably will get cut anyways. I mean, he's lost 3 straight fights by TKO, I think, or 2 straight fights. Overall, I mean, the guy is a grinder, and, I respect Frankie Saenz, but, Cole, now his record in the UFC is 5-5. He probably didn't lose his job either way. So, it's unfortunate that Martinez missed weight because had he not missed weight, he would have won that bonus. So, I'm high on this guy, though, Cole. I think you agree with me on this guy. He's pretty solid, man.
Yeah, other than the weight miss, that was the only big thing is he has to get weight control because I don't know how good he do at featherweight. He's not a big guy. I think bantamweight, he has to figure that out. But he looks really good. He's still young, has a lot of power. He really should be on a 4-fight winning streak. I think a lot of people thought he beat Andrei Ewell. So he honestly could be closing in to getting a ranked guy or just a guy like that 16-20 range. But he's dangerous at bantamweight with all that power.
I agree. Just the last couple of fights here, we'll go through them quick. Nathan Manis defeats Johnny Munoz by decision. This fight was pretty boring. Pretty much just Munoz pushing Manis against the fence. Manis wins the decision, kind of controversial. I scored 28-28, I believe. There was a point deduction for a groin shot, if I'm not mistaken, late in the third round. This guy got hit in the nuts like maybe 4 or 5 times in this fight. The referees got to start taking the point sooner, Cole. Like, why do they have to wait so long to take the point? Everyone knows you can't hit a guy in the nuts. I'm not saying it was necessarily intentional, but at some point, you're hurting a guy. The scorecards were kind of weird for this fight, Cole. Man, if you look at the media scores, really strange. Either way, Cole, not an eventful fight. Jamal Emmers defeats Vincent Cachero. Again, not an eventful fight, but he wins a decision 30-27 across the board. And finally, Chris Gutierrez defeats it's actually a draw. Chris Gutierrez and Cody Durden fought to a unanimous draw, which is very rare in the sport. 28-28 across the board. 10-8 round in the first round for all 3 judges. And then Gutierrez won 10-9, 10-9. I'll be honest, I think you could score 10-8. I actually had it 10-9 because he didn't do any damage. You can't just have positional control. You also have to do damage. So to me, it was 10-9. I would have actually scored the fight for Chris Gutierrez, but I'm not arguing the 10-8. If you want to argue that, no problem. I think you kind of agreed with you on that one, Cole.
Yeah, because I don't think Durden really. I think Gutierrez dominated the third round just as much as Durden dominated the first. So I'm like, if you score the first 10-8, you have to score the third 10-8. I just did 10-9s across the board on every single round, and Gutierrez winning second and third. I thought he won the fight because although Durden had his back, he didn't really do anything with it. He just kind of held Gutierrez there. So, okay, you're holding position, but you're not doing any damage. So I don't know how I could see a 10-8, but I don't really agree with it.
Yep, I'm with you on that one. Okay, so just quickly, I don't want to get into this too much, but we did have a few fights fall off at the last second. First fight that fell off was Gerald Marshall against Ed Herman. Unfortunately, Gerald Marshall tested positive for COVID-19. Hopefully he feels better. I think he was asymptomatic. So, I mean, I don't know how he got it. I mean, they were in a bubble. Like, he's getting tested constantly. It's kind of crazy, man. So hopefully he feels better. Obviously, Ed Herman didn't fight. Kevin Holland was supposed to fight against Trevin Giles. Trevin Giles literally fainted while they were walking out. Apparently, Kevin Holland wasn't even told. He just saw it on the TV. That's so crazy, man. The guy was about to fight, and then no one even told him from the UFC. Really weird. Kevin Holland's going to fight in this card this weekend. We'll break down this fight a little bit later. The Trevin Giles thing was kind of crazy, and then the media was asking about it, and this guy was basically insinuating that he fainted. And Dana White later said, like, "Oh, this guy got too much nerves, and the anxiety made him faint." Cole, this guy apparently might have a heart condition. Like, that's not why he fainted. He's a police officer in Houston, Texas, man. This is a tough dude. I don't think he's scared of fighting anyone. So I thought it was kind of like cruel to kind of throw shade at this guy after he fainted. Health and safety of the fighters is most important. I understand it's a brutal sport, but if a guy faints on the way to the octagon, you can't put on that fight. So unfortunately, that's what happened. And the other fight that fell off was Markus Perez and Charles Ontiveros, and that was after the Eric Spicely fight fell off. So a lot to talk about here, but the first thing I want to mention is Eric Spicely was cut from the UFC after this. So Eric Spicely took to social media and basically said he did miss weight and he took all responsibility for that. But he also mentioned that after the Deron Wynn fight last year, which was fight of the night, by the way, and arguably one of the best fights of 2019, great fight. He said he got a nasty concussion after that fight and has dealt with depression, anxiety, and all sorts of other mental health problems after that. And he said that he was on antidepressants, and he said that those pills made it difficult for him to cut the weight. Obviously, the UFC was really pissed off at him. They cut him, but they don't cut Ray Borg, Cole. They didn't cut Ray Borg, but they cut Eric Spicely. We don't even know why Ray Borg pulled out of this fight. I know Ray Borg got a sick son at home. I feel bad for Ray Borg. That's tough, man. No doubt about it. But Cole, Ray Borg pulls out of more fights than he ever fights. And somehow he kind of has gone scot-free, whereas Eric Spicely has a legitimate reason why he missed weight. And it seems really cruel they cut him, man. He's saying all the right things, but dude, I got to be honest, Cole, I feel really bad for this guy. He said he hasn't made money in a year since last June against Deron Wynn. He lives in Canada now because he trains here, but he can't work because he's not a Canadian citizen. He's in a tough spot, man. Ed Herman, he was pissed off that the fight fell off. He apparently got drunk or something and got on a plane, went home. And Dana White got pissed off at him because he wasn't available to fight Kevin Holland. How was he supposed to know that was going to happen, though? Like, that's kind of ridiculous.
And I don't even get how that fight was supposed to be made. One weighed 205, one weighed 185. How is the commission even going to allow that?
I have no idea. Like, I think Markus Perez, fight could have happened, Cole. Markus Perez against Ed Herman, or Markus Perez against Kevin Holland because he was 195 as a catch weight. So I have no idea how they were going to do the Herman fight anyways, but Dana White got pissed off. Stephen Morocco reported that Ed Herman got paid $10,000. That's not his show money. That's some money. Cole, these guys weighed in. They should have been paid their show money, in my opinion. Ontiveros, no, he didn't even show up on the scale. He didn't make weight. No, not to him. Markus Perez made weight. Give him his show money. Ed Herman made weight. Give him his show money. Kevin Holland made weight. Give him his show money. Trevor Giles made weight. Give him his show money. Gerald Marshall made weight. Give him his show money. I understand that Gerald got sick. You think he intentionally got COVID-19? No way. He should have been given his show money. These guys stepped on the scale. They made weight, Cole. They did their job. It's unfortunate those fights fell off. The screwed up thing is, Cole, the UFC still gets the same amount of money from their TV deal with ESPN, whether it's 8 fights or 10 fights. They've already budgeted this money for the fighters. Why are they being so cheap, Cole? Tell me.
Who knows? And then you don't have to pay a win bonus in Gutierrez in that fight at Durden as well. So then you save the win bonus money too. So I don't get how, like, Ed Herman's a guy that's been around forever. I don't know why Dana White doesn't say, like, you've literally been around since what, tough 3, I think it was?
15 years. Yeah.
Why don't they throw him a bone and say, you made weight, you did everything you could. Here's your show money. We'll get you a fight whenever you want to fight.
Yeah, and there's a really screwed up sentiment like online from fans saying like, you know, these guys are going to get a fight booked in 2 weeks or something like that. That's maybe. I mean, they might get a fight booked. Who knows? They could get injured during that 2 weeks. Not only that, but they have to pay their coaches again to fly them back out there. They have to pay their nutritionist, their manager. It's being a fighter, especially for these guys at lower ranks, you're breaking even, if not losing money, hoping that one day you'll become a star. You know, a guy like Ed Herman, he's been around the UFC since 2006, I think. He deserves a lot more respect from the UFC than what he got from here. So, you know, as far as that goes, I mean, we could talk the rest of the show about how screwed up the finances are. But, yeah, I mean, I was really disappointed with Dana White not giving them at least their show money. I understand that, you know, you don't want to give the win bonus. Sometimes they used to do that. I can understand why they wouldn't do that. But these guys made weight, and they showed up. They should have got their win bonus or show money. All right, take a few questions, then we'll get into the preview for UFC on ESPN Plus 32. Okay, Chris Ludford. Why didn't JoJo just wait a few months to fight Valentina for the flyweight title? Now look what happened. Lost to Maia by submission. Horrible decision. He also adds JoJo needs better management and advice on when to accept MMA bouts. If JoJo didn't want to wait for Valentina, then she should have taken a warm-up bout instead. Rachel Ostovich, who's suspended, so she can't fight her. Lesson learned. Okay, I know what you're saying, Chris, and I'm not saying you're wrong because obviously it didn't work out too well, but she was favored going into this fight. A lot of people thought she'd win the fight, even despite taking it on short notice. I think it's one of these situations where she hasn't fought in a little while now, and she's like, you know what, I got to make some money. And the opportunity came out to take a co-main event spot and make her at least her show money. Valentina fight, maybe in a few months. Who knows? Valentina's hurt right now. That might not happen until next year. It's hard to say, okay, I want to sit in the shelf for the rest of the year and just wait for the champ. Not only that, Cole, but I doubt she would have made more money for that fight. That's probably why she took this fight. Because if there was like pay-per-view points, which I don't think she would get, or some sort of like increase in her contract, she probably would have waited. But she's like, you know what? If it's the same amount of money, I'm just going to take this fight and hope I win. She lost. It looks bad now, but honestly, I don't blame her for taking it. What do you think, Cole?
Yeah, like she hasn't fought since, when was it, 242 last September against Andrea Lee. Was that her last fight? Yeah, so she hasn't fought in a year. She hasn't made money in a year. Like, no one really knows when Shevchenko's going to be back. It's just been always, for the longest time, it's just been, a few more months, few more weeks, few more months. It's like, maybe Shevchenko's not ready till next summer, so now she's going to wait a year and a half of not making money. Like, it's a job. Like, you end up having to make money, and I don't really blame Caldwell for taking it. Like, if she felt like she could win the fight, if she needed that money, like, you can't blame her for taking the fight.
Yeah, I agree. And Chris says JoJo, after working so hard, gets to rank number 3 now, dropped to 6th. I mean, that's the risk she took, man. She knew what she signed up for. Also, she fainted after the fight, too. Hopefully she's okay. That's crazy that 2 people fainted on this card. And he says Valentina said she's fighting this year. She can say what she wants, but until she steps in the cage, I don't trust her to actually fight again this year because she got hurt, man. She got surgery. Steve S. Hey, Adam. How's it going, Steve? Glad you're here. All right, we're going to go to the UFC on ESPN Plus 32 preview. Okay, Cole?
Yep.
All right, cool. So we got, I believe, 11 fights in this card. They did add the Kevin Holland fight. Really
12 with Holland.
12? Okay, good. All right. UFC on ESPN 32. Hermanson versus... No, that's not the right one. Stupid thing. Sorry, guys. I got to pull up the Tapology. For some reason, it didn't show up, although my video came up with Cole, which is good. It's ESPN Plus 32, isn't it?
I don't know. I just call it UFC Vegas 6.
Yeah. I'm looking at the if you look at best fight odds, Cole, I'm kind of going by like what they're using, but for some reason, it's not coming up. I don't know why. It's really weird. Give me a second, guys. That's strange. I wonder what they're calling it there. All right, Cole. Talk about the just overall the card while I'm looking for this.
I mean, the main event, it's a weird one. I'm fascinated to see it, though. Like, Derek Brunson, Aleksei, Oleinik. You cannot have more polar opposite styles in the heavyweight division than that. Like, Lewis does not want to go to the ground. Oleinik doesn't really want to stand up. Chris Weidman back to 185 in the co-main event. Should be interesting to see that. So overall, it's actually a pretty good fight night card. Like, you have some fairly notable names like Weidman. You have Darius Holtzman. You have Kevin Holland fighting. Tim Means is back, which is I love watching Tim Means fight. Now it's at Hack Press, Alex Munoz. That's a really interesting fight because it's kind of two prospects going at each other. Canadian Gavin Tucker's fighting. He's coming back, so which is good. But 12 fights should be a good one. Main card's pretty good. There's obviously some fights I'm really looking forward to. Some sneaky fight of the nights, I think. But it's a much better fight night card than last week's for sure.
I agree with that. All right, so let's get into this card. All right, first fight in the card. It's a bantamweight bout between Ali Al-Kiasi and Erwin Rivera. And right now, the odds for this fight have Rivera minus 200, Al-Kiasi plus 170. Who's your pick?
I'm going to Erwin Rivera here, but I wouldn't bet this fight. I think this is I don't really think you can bet on either guy. I don't know too much about Al-Kiasi. I tried to watch some stuff on him. He looked good in Brave. He at 3 straight wins in Brave, a submission win, and then 2 decisions. But Erwin Rivera, even though he lost Chikazi, he looked good. I think he was just way too small in that fight. He's a natural bantamweight. He had some success in Titan FC. He was their Titan champ. I think he's the better striker. I think he's just the better all-around fighter. But again, like I wouldn't be surprised if Al-Kiasi won this fight. But this is one I just wouldn't bet at all, just because it's Erwin Rivera's all on the UFC. You have Al-Kiasi debuting. It's really hard to lay money on either guy.
Yeah, definitely a tough fight to bet. I wouldn't bet on this fight. I mean, to me, this is like a Contender Series fight, which has a lot of variance. Al-Kiasi is almost lucky he's in the UFC right now. As far as the odds go, I think it could be closer, Cole. Rivera, he did lose to Chikadze, who's a decent fighter, but still lost. Didn't look too impressive there. It was up a weight class, though, so you got to give him credit, I guess, for that. He's got a little bit more experience, Cole. He's fought a little bit better competition, but overall, I mean, 9-5 record, so it's not a great record. Before the fight with Chikadze, he had 3 straight wins, though, so I mean, that's something to keep in mind. Al-Kiasi, first fight in the UFC. It's kind of weird he didn't fight on Fight Island. This seems like the kind of guy that would have fought in Fight Island, Cole. Like, why is he going all the way to Vegas for this? Really weird. He's actually on a 6-fight unbeaten streak. Although one of the fights, for some reason, they don't have the result of it on Tabology. Kind of weird. But, yeah, he's had some wins in Brave. He's got more momentum coming in this fight, but I just think you look at the level of competition, it's been pretty low. Definitely it could be an upset here. I wouldn't be surprised if this guy won. But my slight leans towards Rivera. He already has that experience in the UFC. So I'm going to take him to win the decision here, Cole. But honestly, this is definitely upset city potential. So do not bet in this fight. It's dog or pass. I wouldn't even touch it. All right, next up, we have a featherweight bout between Youssef Zalal and Peter Barrett. Right now, we have Zalal minus 350, Barrett plus 290. Who's your pick?
I like Youssef Zalal. I don't really like Peter Barrett dropping down to featherweight. He's a guy that's been fighting at lightweight for a while. He's a guy that I'm really not that high on. I don't think he looked that good in the Contender Series. Picked up a win over Sang Han Wu. But look who he's beat. He beat a guy that was 15-75. If you're 15-75, why are you still fighting? And like the guys he's fought, like 5-1, 4-2, 9-5, 6-4, 5-5, 10-12, 3-2, 7-17, 6-12. Like he hasn't fought those really tough guys. He hasn't fought since August of last year in the Contender Series. Youssef Zalal has been active. He fought June 27th and then in February. This is already his 3rd fight of the year. He impressed me as the UFC debut. I thought Austin Lingo was going to win that fight. Youssef Zalal impressed me. And then Jordan Griffin, he looked good in that fight. I think Youssef Zalal can get his first UFC stoppage win here. I don't like Barrett cutting the extra 10 pounds. We've seen him be knocked out before. His last knockout loss was at 150. He got submitted to TJ Brown, who I'm not really on at all, at 145. I think 145 is more successful to get finished. I think Youssef Zalal can either submit him or knock him out late in the fight.
Okay, so this guy, Jay Ellis, that's the guy you're talking about. You said he was 15-75.
At the time.
He's 15-93 now. And he actually has a win over Gerald Marshall in 2007. He beat Gerald Marshall. What the hell? Holy crap, this guy must be the worst fighter of all time. He also has a win over Daniel Strauss, the former Bellator champion. That's crazy. Oh, man, this guy's terrible, Cole. And he's fought a lot of actual UFC fighters now, like Mearshart, Rocco Martin, and now...
if you're on like a 20-fight losing streak, what point does your family say, I think you got to hang this up?
Dude, what in the world? Okay, so since his
and he's losing every single fight by submission in the first round.
Since 2017, he's 0-20. This guy.
Look at it. It's submission losses in the first round every single fight.
This guy's terrible. Oh man, that's what they call can. This is a guy that you bring in. He probably gets paid like $100 for a fight. Cole, he had 10 fights last year and lost them all.
Colby Covington fought him.
Oh my god. Yeah, he's actually, like I said, he's got some wins. I don't want to get too off track here, but my God, that guy is awful. Jay Ellis, guys, if you want to topology him. Anyways, as far as this fight goes, you have to go with Zalal. I mean, he's looked really good in the UFC. 2 straight wins over Lingo and Griffin. The Griffin fight was a fun fight to watch. I mean, I don't love the odds at minus 350. I think it's a little bit high. Like his last fight, he was, I think, minus like 140 or something against Griffin. Those were great odds. So definitely there was value there, but now people know he's good. So that's the unfortunate part. Peter Barrett, Cole, I think you should give him a little bit more credit. This is a guy who's definitely overcome a lot, and to make it to the UFC at age 33, it's impressive, man. I'm glad he's here, but like you said, doesn't really have any notable wins. His losses he's been stopped in, so it kind of worries me a little bit. Maybe this is the fight where Zalal gets a stoppage. The odds are kind of leaning towards that way. I'll take Zalal here. Maybe decision, but could be a stoppage too. Do I love the odds? Not really, but I expect him to win, and I think a lot of people will probably parlay him. What are you going to say?
Zalal inside the distance is plus 145.
I think we're because Barrett loses by stoppage. Got a comment here from Gabe. Gabe Killing, what's going on? That's what they call a guy who throws fights. Yeah, he's like Bob Sapp, goes in there, just falls down and covers his head. But seriously, how could you get on a 20-fight win streak or losing streak and your family's like encouraging you? Come on, you can do it. Are you kidding me, Cole? Like, oh man. So stupid. All right. Next up, we have this is a fun fight. Featherweight bout. Justin James against Gavin Tucker. So Justin James moving down to 145. Interesting fight here. Gavin Tucker minus 150. Justin James plus 130. Who's your pick?
I like the underdog in Justin James here. I know he's dropped out of featherweight, but he's fought at featherweight a bunch before. I know I actually prefer him at lightweight. I think that's his best division. I hope either win or lose, he goes back up to 55. I know he's talking to James. He said this is a tough cut. If he can make the weight, fine, but I just think he looks so good against Frank Kamanko, knocking out in the first. I'm still not completely sold on Gavin Tucker. I know he won his last fight. I picked him in that one, but that Rick Glenn fight, that was such a beatdown where I still don't know if Justin James could just land a couple punches. Like, Tucker takes so much damage in fights where I think James has so much power he might be able to connect and knock Tucker out. It's a close fight, but I just slightly lean towards Justin James, and at plus money, I think you kind of have to bet him if you're going to bet this fight, but I think James might be able to get Gavin Tucker out. If not, maybe he gets a decision win.
Yeah, interesting fight. Gavin Tucker, definitely one of the better UFC fighters from Canada right now. But, man, that Rick Glenn fight still sticks out like a sore thumb. I mean, he took a lot of damage in that fight, guys. And it's kind of like one of those fights that could have ended his career. 2 years later, he came back and he had a nice win last year in Edmonton against Sung Woo Choi. But, that's not a great fighter by any means. Justin James, the Frank Camacho fight, I mean, that was impressive. So I didn't expect him to win that fight. He's won 5 straight fights by stoppage. This guy's pretty good, man. I honestly think Cole could be favored here because all the recent wins, and I don't trust Tucker. Honestly, I think if Justin James can land on this guy, he can finish him. I'm going to take Justin James as underdog, Cole. I think he wins this fight too. I'm with you on this one, man. I think there is value at plus 130. To me, this is a fight where he should be favored. So the odds actually opened at plus 170. That's crazy.
If you got plus 170 in Justin James, that's such a good bet.
Yeah, I think even plus 130 is not bad. I do think he wins this fight. Would Tucker winning surprise me? No, and that's why the odds are close. But, I think that there's a spot here to take a shot on the dog. All right, next up, we have Andrew Sanchez against Wellington Turman in the middleweight division. Right now, we have Wellington Turman minus 155, Andrew Sanchez plus 135. Who's your pick?
I'm actually going back underdog. I think Andrew Sanchez can get this one done. Wellington Turman, I'm still not really high on. I know he beat Markus Perez. He's lost a split to Carl Robeson, but I know Andrew Sanchez is coming off Martin Vittori, but for that Andre Barrio beat Markus Perez. He's a guy that I just think his style can really match Wellington Turman really well, where he just likes to grind guys out, just clinch him up against the fence, wrestle them, just really make this fight an ugly fight, a probably won't be too exciting. Just grind out a decision win. I think Sanchez is going to be strong in a turn where you can just kind of hold him there, just do enough along the fence, similar to what Carl Roberson did a lot of the time, but just hold him against the fence, land some elbows in the clinch. I think that's Sanchez's path to victory. I think you get the job done by decision, but again, this isn't a fight I'd want to bet at all. It's just both these guys I'm not really high on at all.
Yeah, this is a close fight too, and I was kind of leaning towards Sanchez, but then there's a few things about Herman that I like. First off, he's 8 years younger, 24 years old, so I like that. Arguably, he could be undefeated in the UFC right now. The Robertson fight was close. I'm not saying he's looked impressive by any means, but he's young, he's getting better and cool. For a guy that's 24, he has a lot of fights, so he's fighting often and frequently, and he's doing well. I'd like to see him get a finish though in the UFC. I don't know if this is the fight because Sanchez is tough, but he has been stopped a few times earlier in his UFC run where he got stopped to the body as well. So his cardio worries me a little bit as the fight goes on as well. I don't know. It's a close fight. Definitely can see why you took the dog. I was thinking about it too, but ultimately I'm going to go with Herman to win a decision here. But it's definitely a close fight, man. Not really one where I'm super confident on to have money on it. Next up, we have lightweight belt between Nasrat Haqparast and Alex Munoz. Right now, we have Haqparast minus 235, Munoz plus 195. Who's your pick?
This is a fight I'm really tempted to take Alex Munoz. I don't understand these odds. These odds should be a lot closer. Alex Munoz is really good. He beat Troy Lampson last time out on the Contender Series, beat Nick Newell. He's an undefeated guy, really strong wrestler. Comes out of Team Alpha Male. Uriah Faber's really hyped him up a lot. Haqparast really lost a lot of hype when he got knocked out by Dober in January. I'm picking Haqparast to win. I think he's the better fighter all around. I think on the feet he's a lot better. I think he can stuff the takedowns. I know he lost to Marcin Held. I was looking at it. Held went 3 of 10 on takedowns, and that was on short notice. So maybe Haqparast's takedown defense is better. If it stays on the feet, he should be able to get the job done. But again, I wouldn't lay this kind of money on Nasrat Haqparast as the favorite.
No, you can't now after the fight with Dober. I mean, that kind of exposed him. He's definitely a good prospect, and he's young, 24, trains at a good camp, and he's had some great performances in the UFC, the Joaquim Solo fight in particular, but only 3-2 in the UFC, Cole. So, if you've been betting on him, you've actually lost money because he's been the favorite, and he's lost twice. Alex Munoz is a good prospect too, man. 6 fights and all of them wins. Great wrestler. Looked good in that fight with Lampson last year, and then obviously the Nick Newell fight 2 years ago. But, he doesn't fight that often, Cole. He's only got 2 fights in the last 4 years. That worries me, man. Against a guy like Haqparast who's been staying active. There's definitely a chance that Munoz can win just by using his wrestling and taking Haqparast down, just like we saw kind of Marcin Held grind him out. But, I'm leaning a little bit towards Haqparast just because he has been a little bit more active. I just find it hard to lay juice on this guy after the last fight where he got brutally knocked out. So Haqparast, probably by decision, maybe stops Munoz. I don't know. We'll see what happens. He could easily get grinded out, though. So another fight where it's probably dog or pass based on the odds.
And I want to see what they look at wins. I want to see how Munoz stacks up against him. I want to see if he's a lot bigger and stronger than Haqparast, then maybe if this flips to Munoz, maybe I think he can get him down. But it's definitely an interesting fight. I think the UFC did this on purpose where this is going to be lightweight so stacked. They got to figure out which prospect to kind of push forward.
Yep, you're right about that. I agree with that. If Haqparast loses, I mean, that's really bad for his career. That's for sure. All right, next up, we have a really fun welterweight bout between Tim Means and Loreano Staropoli. Staropoli minus 135, Tim Means plus 115. Who's your pick?
You might go crazy. I'm going the underdog of Tim Means. I think he can get it done. I know it's really hard to question his chin, but I don't think Staropoli has that knockout power. He went the distance with Thiago Alves and Hector Aldana. He lost his last fight to Muslim Salikov. I just think Tim Means can really make this just get in close, land some knees, elbows, just make this a really grinding fight with Staropoli. I think the way Means is losing is guys like Daniel Rodriguez, Nico Price, the guys that just rush in and land those heavy shots. I don't think Staropoli can do that. I think this is going to be a stand-up fight. I think Means hits harder. I think he's probably the better striker. I think he can connect, maybe knock out Staropoli, but Salikov didn't even knock out. So I'm going to pick Tim Means to win. Maybe it's a late finish, maybe decision, but I don't know. It's such a close fight.
Yeah, it's close for sure. It's going to be a fun fight. This my sleeper pick for fight of the night. I think it's going to be a fun one. But you guys all know I love Tim Means. I mean, I've always loved the guy. He's a fun fighter to watch. Great clinch work, good striking. But, man, he's been getting finished a lot lately, which definitely worries me against the guy Staropoli's a lot younger than him. 27 to age 36. Tim Means 36 now. So that worries me for sure. Cole, Staropoli's looked pretty good in the UFC. The Salikov fight notwithstanding. Before that, had 2 straight wins over Thiago Alves, Hector Aldana. A lot younger, Cole. That's what I like about him here. So I like Staropoli, man. It's almost a fan of Tim Means. I hate saying it because I love Tim Means, but I think at this point of his career, he is winding down a little bit. So give me Staropoli, Cole. I think he probably wins a decision here because that's how he kind of wins his fights, but he potentially could finish Tim Means as well. All right, next up, we have the main card. First fight of the main card, we don't have odds for it. It was just announced yesterday. Kevin Holland is going to be fighting against Joaquin Buckley in a middleweight bout. We don't have odds, although I imagine Kevin Holland is going to be favored here, Cole. Just give me your thoughts on this fight without the odds.
Yeah, Buckley's a guy that was fighting in Elevate Bellator, has a couple of wins. Justin Patterson, who's been around Bellator, finished to Jesus, who's the CES champ. In Bellator, lost to Logan Storley. He's been knocked out to a guy like Jackie Gosh. I think Kevin Holland, and then he ended up beating Jackie Gosh in his last fight, so got the revenge. But I just think Holland's a lot better. I think he'll be able to finish this fight here. I know he beat Anthony Hernandez really impressively in 39 seconds. I picked Hernandez in that fight. Before that was Smith against Brendan Allen. Can't be mad at that one. I just think he's going to be a lot better than Buckley. Buckley's taken on short notice. Holland's been in a camp preparing. I think he gets the job done. I think he finishes Buckley, but the odds are going to be stupidly high. Like, I wouldn't even be surprised if he closed at like minus 500 or something. I just think there's going to be a lot of betting on Kevin Holland in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think people are going to trust Kevin Holland to get the win here. Joaquin Buckley actually has a decent amount of experience. He's fought in Bellator a couple times. He was 3-2 overall in Bellator. He actually has a win over Chris Heatherly. He's a former UFC veteran. Also, he has a loss to Logan Storley, good prospect. 2 straight wins in LFA by knockout. Just fought he fought on Saturday, Cole. Is that right? So he just fought on July 31st. So picked up a quick win and he's getting another fight here against Kevin Holland. But I don't know, man. I mean, Kevin Holland is a talented guy, man. UFC record, I think it's 4-2, so it's not amazing, but man, when he shows up, and he's a fun guy to watch. He's a guy with a lot of experience now against high-level competition. He's got some good wins. Jeff Neal, that's his best win for sure. He also has wins over Mearshart, Hernandez, DeChirico. I like Kevin Holland here, man. I don't want to overthink it, Cole. I think he probably gets a finish in this fight. Joaquin Buckley has been knocked out before. Kevin Holland has knockout power. He also has submission prowess on the ground, so dangerous guy, man. Give me Kevin Holland by stoppage, Cole. That's going to be my pick in this one. All right, next up, Beneil Dariush against Scott Holtzman in a lightweight belt. Fun fight here. Dariush minus 165, Holtzman plus 145. Who's your pick?
I like Beneil Dariush, and I don't understand the odds. I think he should be a much bigger favorite. I think he should be at least 2-1 favorite. I think Dariush has looked really impressive. 4-fight winning streak, and really knocking Dariush was he couldn't take a punch. He got knocked out to Barboza, the draw against Dunham, and then knocked out Alexander Hernandez. And then since then, he realized he had a neck injury, and he healed that neck injury. And now he showed he could take a punch. He took a lot of punches from Drakkar Klose in that last one, and knocking him out. His striking is a lot better, like as we've seen in the Drakkar Klose fight. And then he submitted Drew Dober and Frank Moncho. That Dober win looks really impressive after the way Dober's looked. Holtzman, his path to victory really is to stand and hopefully knock out Dariush. I just don't see that happening. I think Dariush is going to be able to get Holtzman down to the ground. The big question is, can Dariush finish Scott Holtzman? Holtzman's never been finished. He's fought a lot of tough guys. Dober, Emmett, Lentz, those are the only losses, all by decision. I think Dariush it's going to be similar to what he did to Kamako or Drew Dober, where eventually he just kind of grinds him out. Like similar to the Dober fight, where the first round's close and then the second round he grinds him out and eventually gets that submission. I think Dariush is going to win this fight by stoppage. And after this, I think he needs to get a ranked guy.
I think he should have got a ranked guy now, man. He's been super impressive. 4 straight wins. The knockout of Drakkar Klose was nice. The Frank Camacho win was nice. Drew Dober. Obviously, he's had some poor performances. He's been finished a couple times, but man, he's looked good. He's got good wins, Cole. Diego Ferreira, Anthony Rocco Martin, Jim Miller, Michael Johnson. I mean, this guy he's really underrated, man. And I'm a little surprised the odds are this low, guys. I got to be honest. I think he should be a much bigger favorite here. Scott Holtzman is good. He's had some nice wins. He's won 5 of his last 6 fights. He's tough, hard to finish, but how do you go against Beneil Dariush in this fight based on what he's doing? He's looked nothing but impressive. This is definitely a fight to target for a bet, in my opinion. Minus 165. I think there's value on him, Cole. I think he should be like minus 250. So give me Beneil Dariush, man. I think he potentially be able to be the first guy that could finish Scott Holtzman. If not, I think he wins the decision. I like this matchup for him. His chin's always going to be concerned, Cole, but Scott Holtzman, he's not really a one-punch knockout guy. He's more of like a guy that beats you relentlessly. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, Cole. But I like Dariush, man. I like him quite a bit.
Do you see that Dariush wins by decision is plus 255?
Wow. I don't know if it's going to be decision or stoppage.
Even stoppage is plus 155. So you get plus money if you think he's going to finish the fight or go the distance.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. I like Darius though, man. I would probably just take him straight. Just
Me too.
I don't know how he finishes the fight. All right, next up we have a women's bantamweight bout: Yana Kunitskaya against Julia Stoliarenko. She took the fight on short notice. Right now we have Kunitskaya minus 235, Stoliarenko plus 195. Who's your pick?
I think it's a good matchup for Yana Kunitskaya. I was picking her to lose against Kelvin Vieira. I thought Vieira would be able to just kind of out-wrestle her. This fight, Stoliarenko is a primary striker, but I know she has three wins by armbar, but look, 4-1, 0-0, 2-3, and then she had the split in her last fight. She was on tough, lost to Leah Ledson. She beat her and lost to Patty Kianzad on the show, and then was brought back for the Ultimate Fighter finale. I'm still not high on her. I wasn't that high on her on tough. I think Yana Kunitskaya on the field should be able to piece her up. I think she can defend Stoliarenko's takedowns. I think she can do enough to get a decision win. I don't see her finishing Stoliarenko, but I think this is just a fight for Kunitskaya to get back in the win column, and maybe they give her Vieira Bruno winner after this.
If you go to her Instagram, it's just pictures of her and Thiago Santos making out. So if you want to go see that, guys. Yeah, I like Yana too, Cole. I think the experience from the UFC, she's fought some really high-level competition at this point. Her wrestling is pretty strong, I think, overall. Stoliarenko, you know what, Cole, I got to be honest, she had some nice wins in Invicta. That last fight was a really bloody fight. She won that bantamweight championship, so she deserves another chance in the UFC. She has fought in the UFC. She didn't look good the last time. She's won 5 straight fights. I'm glad she's back. She deserves it. I don't think she wins this fight. I think Yana just kind of grinds her out for 3 rounds, especially with the full camp. I mean, Stoliarenko is taking a short notice. So Yana Kunitskaya by decision. Next up, Darren Stewart against Maki Pitolo. Right now we have Darren Stewart minus 200, Pitolo plus 170. Who's your pick?
I like Darren Stewart in this fight. I'm still not behind Maki Pitolo. I know he beat Charles Bird at UFC 250, but still that loss to Callum Potter didn't look good. And Darren Stewart to me is a much better fighter. I know his last fight wasn't Cage Warriors. It was a UFC fight, though. He lost to Bartosz Babinski. Before that, beat Deron Wynn, beat Von Lewis, lost to Edmund Shpazin. I still think Darren Stewart, I'm still high on. I know he had that stretch where he lost 3 straight and then beat Spicy Bird, but he's a guy that's inconsistent, but I think so is Maki Pitolo. I think this fight isn't going to go the distance. I think one of them is going to get finished, and I think it's going to be Pitolo getting finished by Darren Stewart, whether it be a submission or knockout.
Yeah, close fight for sure. I think the fight's closer than the odds are. And I'm going to take my boy Maki Pitolo, man. I've been high on this guy since Contender Series, man. His striking is really good. Darren Stewart's solid. Don't get me wrong. He is solid, but he has some flaws in his game. His takedown defense, he's been submitted a couple times. He gets taken damage from strikes too. So, this guy's solid. Don't get me wrong. I think Pitolo is solid too. I think this fight's almost a pick-up fight. Plus 170, I got to take a shot on Maki Pitolo, man. I think he could potentially stop Darren Stewart with strikes. And this guy has got really good body work, and I think that could be a factor in this fight. So, close fight for sure. But to me, the odds say you got to pick Pitolo here. So, give me Pitolo. I wouldn't go crazy on this because it can go either way, but plus 170, I'm going to take a shot on him. Next up, co-main event, Chris Weidman against Omari Akhmedov. The odds right now very close, minus 115. Chris Weidman, Akhmedov, minus 105. Who's your pick?
I think Chris Weidman gets back into the win column. I just think him and Akhmedov are so similar in fighters, just Weidman does it better. Akhmedov doesn't have that one punch dog of power that knocks Chris Weidman out. He's that grinder type who likes to use his wrestling. I think Weidman's the better wrestler, and I think he's the bigger guy. I think he's going to be stronger than Akhmedov. Akhmedov used to fight at welterweight. No way Chris Weidman's going to make welterweight. Weidman, I know he's on that loss to Dominic Reyes. And even that was the only fight where he truly lost. The other ones like Souza, Basasi, Romero, he was all in that fight. Then he ended up getting caught. He submitted Kelvin Gastelum, which is his last win. He really needs a win here. I think this is a favorable matchup for him. I think he can get the job done. I don't know if he'll be able to finish Akhmedov. Akhmedov is tough. Maybe he gets a 3rd round stoppage or something like that, but I think Weidman gets the job done. Yeah,
I like the fight. I think it's an interesting matchup, but I like Akhmedov, man. You have to fade Chris Weidman. You can't bet on Chris Weidman anymore. He's lost 5 of his last 6 fights by stoppage. I understand he's fought elite competition. Don't get me wrong. He's fought the best guys in the world, but he gets finished in brutal fashion. I don't trust his chin against pretty much anyone right now to go 15 minutes, if not 25 minutes, if it was a 5-round main event. It's only a 3-round fight, so lucky him. I think the last fight was scheduled for 5 rounds, which would have been really bad for him. Even in 50 minutes, I think Akhmedov can finish him, man. I know he's kind of on this roll where he's just decisioning guys, but I think this is going to be a fight where he could catch Chris Weidman. If not, I think Akhmedov's tough enough where you can kind of stuff the takedowns and keep the fight standing and kind of just kind of batter Chris Weidman, man. This is a total fan of Chris Weidman. I love the guy, man. He was a great fighter, man, for a while. It's just really unfortunate how his career's kind of tailed off at the end, but it's what happens in the fight game, man. You get old quick, and I think that's what's happened to him. Akhmedov actually is 4 years younger, surprisingly. He doesn't look it, but he is. 6-fight unbeaten streak. He's got some nice wins. He and Heinisch, Abdul Razak Al-Hassan. I like Akhmedov, Cole. I think he wins probably by knockout once again, but it could be decision too. All right, main event of the evening. Man, interesting fight here, Cole. Derek Lewis against Aleksei Oleinik, and right now we have Derek Lewis minus 225, Oleinik plus 185. Who's your pick?
I'm going Derek Lewis by knockout, but I think this is a fight you can't really bet unless you go. I think it's dog or pass for that. I don't think he can lay this kind of money on Derek Lewis. Maybe look for a prop of knockout. I don't think he's going to win a decision. Aleksei Oleinik is so dangerous on the ground where if he gets down on the ground, he can submit anyone. But the problem is Derek Lewis is so big and so strong where I just think he can just burst back up. We saw what he did against Loreano. Like the TV took him down and he literally just stood up with his own power. I think he do that same thing against Oleinik. I think he can hurt Oleinik early. I think this is going to be similar to like that Alistair Overeem where Oleinik has some success early on the feet, and then by the late first round, he gets knocked out. I think Lewis is going to finish this fight first, second round by knockout.
There's only two ways this fight ends: Derek Lewis by knockout or Aleksei Oleinik by submission. I don't see any other way.
I don't think it goes past 3 rounds either. I don't think
5 rounds. This fight didn't need to be 5 rounds. I don't think it needs a full 5. It's a tough fight to call, man. I mean, Derek Lewis, I've pretty much picked him in every fight except for DC, but almost every other fight I've picked him in. I love Derek Lewis. I've always been high on him. Anyone who's listened to my podcast for like the last 6 or 7 years knows that I'm high on this guy. Striking's not great by any means, but the power he possesses is just ridiculous. Having said that, Cole, he's been finished a lot of times too, and we saw what happened in the Cormier fight where he got taken down. He got tapped out pretty quick in that fight. Oleinik, he is old. He's 43. He's a guy who's been knocked out a bunch of times himself. You can't trust his chin that much, but that ground game is incredible, and he looked great against Verdun, Cole. I'm going to go with the underdog here, Cole. I'm taking Oleinik, man. I think at plus 185 there's value. Or plus 185. This is a close fight, man. I think it's a pick'em fight with a slight lean towards Lewis if you had to like make a line for it, but plus 185 on a guy that has a clear path to victory. I know I'm crazy. I'm taking it, Cole. And definitely it's a risk because he can get knocked out at any second. But I think, Cole, if he closes the distance and gets his fights to the ground, I think he taps out Derek Lewis really quick. I actually think he can get a rear naked choke or an Ezekiel choke again, possibly even. So we'll see what happens. But, I mean, we've actually had quite a few underdogs that have won main events since the UFC's restarted in May. So I think this is a spot where another one can win. So, yeah, I know it's definitely taking a risk here, but I'm taking Oleinik by submission. Probably in the first round, if I had to guess. What are the odds on that, actually? I got to take a look at that. Oleinik inside distance, plus 230. Nah, I'd rather just take the money line, just in case. I mean, I don't think it goes 5 rounds, but who knows? Also, the fight that doesn't go the distance, that's minus 675. But it's going to win.
Under 1.5 is minus 105.
Yeah. Yeah. I see that too. I think that probably wins, Cole. I don't think it goes actually past the first round, to be honest with you, Cole. All right, let's just do Contender Series.
If it goes past the second or third round, this is going to be a sloppy fight. Both guys gas pretty easily.
100%, definitely. I think Lewis actually probably has better cardio. But yeah. Oleinik looked good in the last fight, man. For an old man, he looked really good. All right, let's just do Dana White's Contender Series quick. The card actually takes place tonight. One fight fell off. Kenny Cross against Demonte Robinson. Fight was scratched. I think Robinson missed weight. I'm not sure why it was scratched, but he did get scratched, so the fight's off. Kenny Cross might actually just get signed to the UFC if I had to guess at this point. He probably should be there anyways. He's a pretty good prospect, and he would have won that fight. All right, so we got 4 fights in the card now. It's tonight. We'll start with the first fight in the card, Jose Flores against Jordan Levitt. And again, you got to remember with Contender Series, these guys are not in the UFC. There are a lot more variants, a lot of upsets, so be careful. Jose Flores against Jordan Levitt. Right now we have Levitt at minus 125, Flores plus 105. Who's your pick?
I'm actually going with an underdog here, and Jose Flores, a slight underdog. I know we had that Contender Series saying lost to Matt Frohl by submission. Since then, picked 2 wins up in Combate. I know the level competition wasn't that good, but he's been a guy. He's fought in Bellator. He has some good wins. Jordan Levitt, I know he's undefeated, but again, it's just level competition with these Contender Series guys. I always complain about it every single Contender Series show. A lot of these guys are fighting guys that are like 1-5 or 2-6. They just don't fight. So it's hard to see. That's what makes it so hard to pick is you don't really know how good they are because they haven't really beat anyone good.
Yeah.
I think Flores has the more experience. I think he's better. I think he can get the job done. I don't know if either guy will be able to finish it. And if you don't get it finished, you're probably not getting signed.
Yeah, close fight for sure. But I kind of lean towards Flores a little bit too. Levitt's fought no one. He's undefeated for sure, but he's fought nobodies. He does have a win over Johnny Walker. That's not the same Johnny Walker, just so you guys know. I like Flores, man. I'm with you, Cole. I think, first off, there's a lot of underdogs that win on Contender Series, and this guy has more experience, and he's on a nice little win streak. And I think he can make do here in his second chance in the Contender Series. Give me Jose Flores as an underdog. Next up, we have Jerome Rivera against Luis Rodriguez. Rivera, minus 265. Rodriguez, plus 225. Who's your pick?
I don't know any Contender Series fight has anyone above minus 250. Like, how can you really trust? I'm picking Jerome Rivera to win this fight, but the dog or pass. You could not lay that kind of money on Jerome Rivera, who's lost to I've submitted against Roberto Sanchez and lost an injury to Brandon Royval. Luis Rodriguez is on a big winning streak, has some knockout power at flyweight. Either guy I think is going to be a nice decision to fly just because they both finished their fights. I think Rivera on the ground's a lot better. I think you'll be able to submit Rodriguez, but again, you cannot lay that kind of chalk on him.
Great breakdown, Goal, and I agree with you. I mean, Rivera definitely has more experience. He's fought some good fighters. This is a flyweight bout, by the way. Rodriguez, those 7 straight wins, Cole. The thing is, he's fought like literally nobody, so it's hard to say how good he is. Just like you said, Cole, how do you know how good these guys are really? We'll find out. My pick is going to be Rivera. He probably gets a submission. That's kind of how he wins his fights, but Rodriguez can win this fight. It's dog or pass based on the odds. Next up, Uros Medic against Mikey Gonzalez, and right now you have Medic minus 150, Gonzalez plus 130. Who's your pick?
This one I'm really torn on. Like, I could see either guy winning. I could see Medic going out there and knocking out Mikey Gonzalez. I could see Mike Gonzalez going out there and submitting Medic. I favor Medic slightly. I think he has that more power. He can connect on Gonzalez and knock him out. But this is the one where I have such a hard time picking. I would even make a bet on either guy.
Yeah, this is a close fight too. And again, how do you be confident in guys that we, quite frankly, don't know much about? Medic, I've heard good things about him. I know our boy Al Zolino was saying some good things about him. So he's definitely a solid prospect, 5 straight wins in Alaska FC. But Cole, look at the level of competition. These guys he's fighting are terrible. Mikey Gonzalez actually has fought better competition. Justin Baseman, he has 2 wins over him. Justin Baseman's an okay fighter. That's a decent win. He's fought him twice and beat him both times. But he's a little bit older here, Cole, 34. Medic is only 27, so it kind of makes me lean towards Medic. But again, how do you be super confident? I'm going to take Medic, Cole. I think he probably gets the win here, but it's close. Last fight on the card, light heavyweights, Ty Flores against Justin Jacoby. Did you see the odds? If you click on them at best fight odds, the odds actually open at Flores minus 300. Now it's flipped. Jacoby's minus 320. So you saw a complete flip on this fight. And Flores plus 260. Who's your pick, Cole?
Yeah, anyone that got I have Jacoby winning this one. Anyone that got him at plus money it's such a good bet. Just Jacoby, he's got that went 0-2 in the UFC, got cut, has some notable wins. Like he beat Tim Williams, beat Andrew Sanchez. He has a kickboxing win over Carl Roberson. After fighting he's been fighting Glory a lot. He fought the guy. He got knocked out of Alex Perez, the guy that knocked out Sonya Glory. Then he went to Bellator. Lost 2 fights, Kigmo and John Salter. You can't really complain about the Salter loss. Salter's really good. And then since then, he's just really been doing kickboxing. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does in MMA. His last MMA fight was June of 2019. I think Jacoby, it's kind of weird Jacoby's on the Contender Series given how much experience he has. He's kind of not a prospect anymore. He's 32 years old, but a light heavyweight that's still kind of young. I think Jacoby can win this fight. Flores is tough. He is a lot younger. I favor Jacoby, but at those odds, you really can't bet him anymore.
Yeah, I don't know, Cole. I kind of lean towards Flores, man. I'll be honest. I think at this plus money you can get him at now, I think there's value on him, man. Justin Jacoby definitely has more experience in combat sports. No doubt about it. He's got a lot of experience in Glory, but I don't really trust him as an MMA fighter, man. I think Ty Flores, he's training at Elevation Fight Team. I've heard good things about this guy. At 26 years old, he's pretty young. 6 years younger. He's on a 5-fight win streak. He has a couple notable opponents. Jeff Neal, he got knocked out by Jeff Neal, but he also has a win over James Boknovic, who's the UFC vet. I've heard good things about this guy, man. LFA experience. I'm kind of leaning towards Ty Flores. I think this is a spot where a dog can win, but Jacoby, definitely experienced guy. He's fought better competition. I can see why you're taking him for sure, and a guy who has previous UFC and Bellator experience. All right, I think that's going to be it. Well, the only other thing I want to ask you about quickly was Jon Jones will not be stripped by Dana White. I saw you read the article. What do you think about that, Cole? I think you could have stripped him because at this point, like that division needs to move on.
No, I just kind of, I think you kind of get into the end of the year. He fought in February. You normally give a year for the champions. I think
True.
I think he has a little while, but if by the end of this year, if he doesn't have a fight book, then maybe you're looking at the first pay-per-view in January being like a Reyes Blachowicz vacant belt or something like that, or maybe Glover sneaks in there if he beats Thiago Santos, and maybe Santos sneaks in there. I think the division kind of needs to move on, but I think you kind of have to wait till the end of the year to see if Jon Jones is really going to sit out.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong about that, Cole. And just your quick thoughts on a few fights here. Jared Cannonier, Robert Whittaker, thoughts on that one?
I don't know who I'm picking in that one. That is such a good fight. I could see them guy winning that. Winner of this has to get winner of Adesanya Costa. I know if it's Whittaker, they just fought, but Whittaker looks good. I don't think he really showed up that Adesanya fight. I think he's a lot better than what he proved out there, but this was the fight to make. I know people are saying, oh, Cannonier just has to sit out, but he can't sit out for that long and fight Costa Adesanya winner in March, April, and after not fighting since September 2019. He had to get another fight in. If he beat the Robert Whittaker, that's a big name. It adds to the fight against the winner of Adesanya Costa. It just made all the sense to do this fight.
Yep, I'm with you on that one. And then Tanner Boser and Andrei Arlovski.
I think it's a good step up for Tanner Boser. Boser looks good. It's a big name. If you can beat Arlovski, the former champion, then you start getting in those ranked guys. Arlovski beat Philip Lins. He's kind of that hit and miss. Sometimes he looks good. Sometimes he gets knocked out with the first punch. Maybe it's another fight where Boser's a guy that, on the radio station, it's funny. I've talked to him a bunch. He goes, I'm not a heavyweight that finishes. He's a guy that goes to the distance. He likes to really just drown guys into later rounds because he knows heavyweights have terrible cardio.
Yeah,
I think this is his past two fights been by knockout. I think maybe he could connect on Arlovski and knock him out again.
and the last fight, Rodolfo Vieira gets Markus Perez.
I am so high on Rodolfo Vieira. His jiu-jitsu, it is so tough to stop him. If he gets you down to the ground, he's going to submit you.
Yep.
But I don't know. I think you kind of have to lead towards Vieira getting a job done by inside the distance.
Yep, I'm with you on all those, Cole. Okay, I think that's it for today's podcast, Cole. Once again, thanks for joining me, Cole. Really appreciate it. Everyone who sent in a question, really appreciate it. Also, Daniel Edwards, I missed your comment. He'll do a double chance bet on Lewis Oleinik. Yeah, that could win. All right, Cole, plug away, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, Twitter, AquilShow91. The podcast Open Beach Pen's already out. It's Oleinik, Dariush, Holtzman, Kuniskaya. So I'll have all written stories with them. Spoke to Tim Johnson and Curtis Miller. They'll be up on BJ Penn ahead of their Bellator fight. And then I have fighter picks for Oleinik Lewis, and then I did one for Chandler Henderson, which goes down on Friday as well.
Awesome. And like I said, I'll be previewing that card later this week. I'm thinking actually Thursday I'm going to do that podcast because I'm working Friday. So I'll do the Bellator podcast Thursday at 10 a.m., guys, if you want to join in and with me on that one. Also check it out at bjpenn.com, MMAoddsbreaker.com, the home of this podcast, and MMArings.net. Hope you guys have a great rest of the week. I'll be back on Thursday. Cole, thanks again, man, for previewing the podcast with me. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this week. I'll see you soon. Bye.